November 21st meeting of the Traffic Authority. We have a quorum. First item on the agenda is public participation. Do we have anybody that is signed up to speak?
I'm seeing none.
I know we have people here that are here for a particular item. So when that item is on the floor for discussion, we'll take the comments from people then. So there's nobody signed up to speak to address the authority. Chief, do you have any correspondence that was requested to be read into the agenda?
Yeah, I did not receive any, Mayor.
Chief, did you receive anything that you feel needs to be read into the, okay. So then the next item on the agenda, approve the minutes of the Traffic Authority meeting of Monday, November 16th. Do I have a motion?
I'll move we approve the minutes.
Moved by Commissioner Stranidi. Any corrections, deletions, omissions? Seeing none. All in favor of the minutes as submitted?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, approve the temporary closure of East Avenue between Fort Point Street and Winfield Street for work on the advanced utility phase of the Walk Bridge project as detailed in the road closure plan prepared by the Connecticut Department of Transportation. Somebody want to move that for discussion?
I move.
Commissioner Collier Clemens moves the item. Do we have, I know we've talked about this in the past. And I believe that we had some comments regarding the restrictions to actual closure times and dates. Am I correct?
That's correct. We have the Connecticut DOT here to speak on it from the public meeting they had.
Because I looked at the letter that was dated October, I believe, and I didn't see any of the issues in there that we had talked about weekends during the beach season and so forth. Mr. Hannafin, I think, is here on behalf of the project.
Yes, how you doing, Mayor? This is
Good,
John.
Mr. Hannafin, how are you?
Good. I do have Rich with me, also Bertoli from WSP. Yes,
Okay.
we were going to incorporate those comments that were made at the meeting regarding the closures for the weekend and the night enclosures. Rich, do you want to recap what was what we had prepared or what we had heard at the meeting and the request from the mayor?
Sure. We had, based on our last attendance at this meeting, you had asked us to reach out to Ina. We held that meeting last Thursday with Ina, and that meeting went very well. We did incorporate the request to have no weekend closures during the summer months of July and August. And we would still have weeknight closures, but those would then, if there was a planned event during that same period, during like a concert at the park or something like that, we would not have work done during those times.
All right, so if that is read into the record and that's what you're agreeing to?
Yep, that's what's in our contract.
Yes, that's what we're going to put into the contract with the contractor.
Okay, do we have any questions from the commissioners?
I don't have any because that addresses the concerns we discussed at our last meeting.
Commissioner
Yeah,
Stranidi?
the only thing is, I think that we also specified, and I don't know what day it falls on, but like the 4th of July,
Mhm.
Does that included in this? Because I didn't hear that mentioned just now.
It was not mentioned, but that's already restricted as part of our contract.
Okay. And the 3rd of July, I mean, that's when we do our fireworks, the 3rd of July, which is not a legal
Right.
holiday. So, yeah.
That can be added as well.
Okay.
Yeah, the 3rd and 4th, and obviously if it goes into the weekend, but yeah.
We'll add that.
Sounds good.
Chief or deputy chiefs, any comments? Okay, hearing no more discussion, all in favor of granting the closure of East Avenue between Fort Point and Winfield as stated by Mr. Bertoli?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Next, approve the installation of 2 crosswalks on Butler Street as shown on the drawing for the Pinnacle at Waypoint. Can I have somebody move this item?
I'll move the item.
Moved by Commissioner Sternini. Mr. Yosak or Mr. Shragi, who's going to?
We have Vincent Hines from the project to speak on this. It's Yes.
Hello, this is Vince Hines from Rendison Mead. Can everybody hear me?
We can now.
Sorry about that. So this is the Pinnacle at Waypoint. West Ave is on the west, and then it's bound by Orchard Street, Quincy Street, and Butler Street. This is a project previously approved at the planning and zoning level back in 2017. And now it's under new ownership, and they're going back in for reapproval of primarily the same site layout. And as part of that design, it includes 2 raised crosswalks, one up here on Orchard Street, which connects a pedestrian walkway on our site to the Waypoint pedestrian walkway through Block Arcade. And then one at the south side of that same pedestrian walkway connecting our site to the Stepping Stones Museum and associated park in Lockwood's mansion. And so what we're here today for is to gain your approval on those 2 crosswalks being raised. And we're proposing them to be raised for a couple of reasons. One, a traffic calming measure between the site and those 2 key points of the Stepping Stones and the Waypoint, and 2, along the same lines, an extra level of pedestrian safety. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Our agenda says 2 crosswalks on Butler Street. Actually, you're looking for one on Orchard and one on Butler. Is that my understanding?
As far as the raised crosswalks, yes, there's one on Orchard and one on Butler. So I'm not sure. We do have another crosswalk here on Butler Street, but that one's not raised. It's a standard crosswalk that was asked for previously by DPW, and that's flush with the grade of the roadway.
Mr. Yosak, is there an error on our agenda? Is that what?
We need the 2 approved on Butler Street, the raised one and the regular one. And I believe the one on Orchard was approved previously.
It could have been. I wasn't aware that it was approved by the traffic authority. I know from a planning and zoning standpoint, the Orchard Street raised crosswalk was approved. So that was my misunderstanding. I thought we were here for both the raised crosswalks. So, yeah, as it relates to Butler Street, as I mentioned, we do have this raised crosswalk, and then supplemental to that, we have a flush crosswalk closer to the intersection with Crescent Street.
I'm not sure I recall the one on Orchard Street, the raised crosswalk being approved by this authority. Maybe the other commissioners can help me out
I
here.
don't remember our discussing it or approving it.
Neither do I.
So, I mean, I don't see a problem with them. But I think we would, if we're going to move this item in the interest of the timing of it, we should probably amend the motion. Mr. Yosak,
That's probably a good idea, Mr. Mayor.
so if somebody could amend the motion to incorporate all 3 crosswalks, I guess that's probably the best way to approach it.
I move to amend the motion for the installation of the 2 crosswalks on Butler Street, one which is raised, and a raised crosswalk on Orchard Street.
Okay, any further discussion? So now a vote on the amended motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Last item, concur with Connecticut administrative decision for Colonial Village expansion. We need a motion to have it on the table for discussion.
Fran Collier Clemens, so moves.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Yosak or Mr. Ashragi?
Yes, at the last meeting, we had tabled this item because we were wondering about why we were actually doing this. We contacted the state of Connecticut. It's part of the legislative act that they have to reach out to the local traffic authorities when they do these actions. This project was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission already, and this would be the only thing outstanding now is our concurrence with the eventual decision of the Office of State Traffic Administration for this project.
I think Commissioner Straniti had a question about.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a procedural question that we brought up last time, which was, how is it that we are even having this before us? It doesn't seem like it's in our purview. And then the other part of it is how, what is it exactly asking us to do without looking at an independent traffic study? And it's talking about the highway. Are they including the just I-95 or is that Connecticut Avenue?
This would be any state road. This would probably be Route 1, Connecticut Avenue. And the legislative act reads that they reach out to the local traffic authorities for basically to be their eyes and ears of problems in that area that this project may pose.
Because we don't really see anything other than a very limited report from Malone and McBroom.
Yes.
We don't see any details. We see an estimated traffic in of 7, I believe, in the morning and out at 25 and then reversing that in the evening.
We do have Neil Linsky on the call here from Malone McBroom that can maybe shed some light on this.
Yes, can you guys hear me?
We can now, yep.
Okay. So yeah, as was mentioned, this is it's a requirement by the Office of the State Traffic Administration that the local traffic authorities within any municipality weigh in on this. I guess you could say they ask for the concurrence is the language. But in a nutshell, yes, we did produce a traffic study that was looked at, and it was a project that we're talking about 69 unit expansion. I believe it was approved last month by the Zoning Commission. But our traffic study, you're correct. It looked at the amount of new traffic we had specifically analyzed the intersections of West Cedar at Scribner Avenue and West Cedar at North Taylor. And we did not find any impacts of those intersections. Generally, the further out you go from a study area or from a site, the more the traffic sort of fans out across the roadway network. And our basic finding that there was no impact at those two intersections, and the fact that the traffic will fan out across the network, and Route 1 is the next intersection further away. Our conclusion was that there would also not likely be any impacts at Route 1 either. Yes, the local traffic authority concurrence per the OSTA requirement is just state roadways. So they do refer to them as highways, but yeah, it's state roadway. Route 1, for example, is a state roadway or state highway. So I don't know if that answered the question, but I'd be happy to dive into anything further.
Well, I don't have the study, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think I recall seeing in the morning 25 traffic trips out of that area, an increase?
Correct, during the morning peak hour. That was the estimate. So yeah, an increase of 25 exiting.
Why would you say 25 when there's 69 units? That's
well,
less than half of the people would be leaving in the morning, either for school or work.
The typical traffic study looks at peak hours, so it's a single hour. Yes, there's going to be more traffic that leaves over the course of a morning. That's a bigger stretch than a single hour. But when we drill down on analyzing impacts and things like levels of service and delays, we're looking at just the 1 hour. So yes, I mean, over the course of a 3-hour morning period, there's going to be more than 25 trips. But during the single peak hour, the stats would indicate that there'd be 25 exiting trips during that morning peak hour, for instance, and a handful of entering trips too.
Any questions from the commissioners?
I guess I don't have any other questions. I just don't see how. I understand that the state wants us to do this, but I don't understand why it's okay to weigh in on this, but not on another project. And I'm just not comfortable saying that it's not going to have an impact. I mean, I don't know how even 25 cars going out at that intersection in the morning in a 1 hour time frame in the morning would not have an impact. You know, is it enough of an impact to say, well, the project shouldn't happen? I don't think so. That's not my opinion, but I mean, I'm only looking at a one traffic report that's not done by, you know, a neutral third party. So I'm just not comfortable saying that this isn't going to have any impact. Of course, 69 units and 132 parking spots are going to have an impact on our roads.
Yes, I mean, I don't want to jump in, but too much. But you know, yes, it's going to have new traffic. It's just a matter of, is that traffic going to have a measurable impact to like levels of service and things like that. So 25 exiting trips leaving the site, for example, you might have half turning left, half turning right. And before you know it, the next intersection down, some people take another turn, other people take another turn. And like I mentioned earlier, the further out you get, the more the traffic sort of fans out across different directions and across the network. And the further away, the less likelihood of particular impact from this specific one development. That's really it. I mean, if anybody is looking for, the traffic study is on file with the town, and we could make sure it gets to the appropriate to the commissioners to look at. I believe our traffic study was from earlier in the year, but I'd be happy to forward that to anybody who would like to take a look at it. It's not terribly different. It's not terribly different than what we sent to the Office of State Traffic Administration either. We usually send OSTA sort of conciser version of our traffic study.
Neil,
Commissioner Clemens?
What is the AM time for peak that you are referring?
Let me take a quick look. I've got the study here. It's been a few months since I've really drilled down on this, but it looks like the morning peak hour is from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock a.m. That was our study period in the morning. 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock a.m.
Okay. Fred and Mike, do we have any studies as to how busy those intersections are at that time of morning now? And the 25 exiting trips, what would be the substantial or not substantial impact on what is already going on there?
Yeah,
That's question number one.
Route 1 is not heavily traveled in the morning, so it's usually generally not a problem in the morning. I think the street gets more busier as the day goes on.
Okay. And also, Fred or Mike, what is the number, or is there a number that you consider for no substantial impact to the traffic pattern?
Yeah, I mean, it really varies depending on the type of intersection it is, because of, a larger intersection, you're going to have more cars before it gets affected. So it's really look at the level of service, and the level of service still remained acceptable, so it doesn't have a substantial impact, and that's kind of the way it's classified.
Okay, so the intersection of Scribner and West Cedar and North Taylor and West Cedar going on to possibly Route 1, those numbers would not have a substantial impact at that time?
Yes.
They look good. And also, those intersections, they're all going to be as part of our traffic adaptive system. So if anything happened down the road, so that system, it's going to be helped. But based on whatever we saw, it's worked pretty well. So it doesn't show any kind of, warning as far as, level of service at the intersection.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think, Mayor, you're on mute.
Yeah, I know that. Chief or Deputy Chiefs, any further discussion? Or questions, comments?
No, I kind of look at what Commissioner Cerniti was saying, that they're asking for concurrence with the state, but I don't really understand why either. It seems like it seems like an administrative policy without any real caring what the city's opinion is. But although I'm not familiar with all the traffic issues and how that all works, but.
Any further discussion or comment? Mr. Olinsky?
I don't have really anything further to say. It's hard to explain, but the State Traffic Administration is just following the state statutes in this regard. They have a checklist that developments have to send in specific things on the checklist, and there's certain things the state needs to have looked at and done. They need to look at the traffic study, look at the site plan, get a copy of the planning and zoning approval, and the local traffic authority concurrence is one of those things in the checklist. I can't speak for OSTA. I guess they could do a better job perhaps of educating the municipalities, but I really can't see much to that.
What is the threshold that kicks this requirement in? Because we don't get it all the time.
That's a good point. It's a very good point. This is interesting. This specific expansion is not big enough by itself that it would require an OSTA approval. It's only 69 units for this expansion. So if this was a standalone, it would not require OSTA approval, and I wouldn't be before you right now. But because it's part of a larger development, Colonial Village, and it's one, this expansion is going to be on the same exact site, the same property owner. It administratively needs an OSTA administrative approval for the entire thing, even though the bulk of it's existing already. So it's a weird little quirk. It's just an administrative paperwork at the end of the day. But yes, you're right. That's a very good point. This development is small enough that if it was standalone, it wouldn't even require an OSTA approval. So I
So
hope that answers the question.
we're only being asked to opine on the 69 units, but not the whole project.
Technically, yes, correct.
Mayor, I just want to add something. So if you look at those numbers, you can see from 200 units, we're just going to 69 units. And from 30 spot, for the parking, we go to 132. These are the two elements is always, create an issue for the traffic, but both of them are going to be improved with this project. So just to give you a little bit comfort that based on what I see as far as the numbering, so we should be okay as far as the traffic and impact.
Any further comment or discussion or questions?
I'm going to abstain on this because I just don't feel like I have enough information to make an informed decision. And I think that from what I know about the project, it seems like a good project and a worthy project. And I think that, like, yes, of course, there's going to be some traffic impact. Is it enough to say we shouldn't do it? I don't necessarily think so. But again, like, I just don't feel like I can say that I agree about something that I just don't have enough facts about at all. So that's what I'm going to do. And thank you for everybody who was answering the questions.
Okay. Any further discussion? So I'll call the vote. All in favor of submitting to the State Traffic Department a letter of no significant impact on this project. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention.
Abstain.
Okay, so it passes 2-1, 2 in favor, nobody opposed, but 1 abstention. Okay. That's
Thank
the
you.
only items that we have on the agenda. Next meeting is Monday, January 25th, 2021 at 4 p.m. And as of now, it's scheduled also to be a Zoom meeting. So a motion to adjourn,
I move to adjourn.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Chief, do we have to get off this Zoom and get on another
Yeah.
one?
Yeah, there's a new link for the police commission.
Okay.
Hi,
very good.
everyone.
Right, thank
Have a
you.
great holidays. Yeah.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.